Well, the less said about this one, the better, I think. Not so simple. Very apt team name. I think this is my worst fantasy result ever. I think literally everything that I said in my last video was wrong. So yeah, I don't know. Let's just forget about it. GG, go next. For some reason, you still want my advice. Let's take a look at Blast Premier World Finals. I didn't realize this event was so soon and that it's both the groups and playoffs in one event. So a bit of a tricky one, especially with a very stacked lineup. We've got almost the top 8 teams in the world, and then Australis are here as well. So cool for them. I'm glad that Make-A-Wish is still doing its thing. But let's take a look at these groups. I think Na'Vi and Mouse are the safest teams in this event, and actually I think because it goes first from a group and second from a group and then third, right? I think there's a lot of virtue doubling up on one group, and Group A feels like the group you want to do that in, with Na'Vi and Mouse most likely. You can see FaZe getting through, but I don't think they get past the quarters. Whereas in Group B, I don't know which one of these teams bombs out. It probably is Liquid, but then Vitality's got a stand-in. Spirit's run of form has been pretty bad lately, and then G2 got dumpstered at Rio. So I literally don't know which team to back here, so it's just too up in the air. I think people won't be looking at Spirit here, which could give them a nice dark horse option, just because people are sleeping on them a little bit because they haven't played too much. But yeah, I think Mal's Na'Vi are the only safe bets here, and then I guess G2 in Group B is my next favorite. I mean, Vitality with JACKZ could do something. It's a tough one to call. So yeah, you've got a lot of options here, but maybe we'll just look at players and then we can work out what we want to do. So you're looking at Na'Vi's kind of recent history, you're looking at the group and you're thinking, yeah, they're a must pick. It's so logical to go Na'Vi, and you're going to be picking Alexi in one of these, but I want to urge you against that. All right, Alexi is the most picked player, but I actually think he's really poor value. He's 194,000. And he averages a 1.9-ish rating, 1.93 in the last month, 1.91 in the last 3 months. He's consistently around that 1.9 point. And I don't think for 194, he's a good choice. I think you're better off looking at a player like Shui, looking at a player like JACKZ, who I think for their price give you similar, if not sometimes better value. So I would urge against Alexi, and if you're going Na'Vi, you grab one of these, depending on your budget, or you double up on one of these, or 2 of these, sorry. But I think Alexi is maybe a bit of a mistake this event. I could be wrong, but just logistically, he's too expensive, in my books. A player that is also a mistake is Snacks. I see him in the top 8 somehow. This guy was always in the most pick. You're crazy if you're grabbing Snacks, especially when JACKZ is right there. Don't get Snacks. I think these 3 are all really good price. Hunter's 191, very cheap for him. Nico, if we ignore Rio, we'll pretend Rio didn't happen for G2. Nico's form's been brilliant. Malbs has been great. Modest is a bit too expensive, I think, for G2. Just given I don't have that much faith in them compared to some other teams, so I'm sticking to those 3. Now the question is JACKZ a good choice? And honestly, yes. Straight up, yes. This year, he's been averaging around that 1.0 rating pretty consistently. A lot of green, a lot of red. But he's been playing a fair bit of tier 2 Counter-Strike. And honestly, considering his price and considering he's taking over Mezzi's role, so he's not taking over a vital role like Flames or Spinks where he really needs to step up. He's playing anchor positions where I feel like given his skill set, he'll be able to thrive and at least get you good value for his price. So I think JACKZ, very good choice, especially when Apex is 7k more. Don't get Apex. And then Flamesy is the only other player I think on this team that has any value. I think Spinks is too expensive compared to him, and then Zywer, given they got the stand-in, I wouldn't want to get him. Mouse though, I think everyone's got good value here, except Brolin, who I again don't think is ever a particularly great choice, but Shui already kind of said my piece. These 3, all great prices. I think Torji, great Rio, 205, bargain. Jimmy, 210. That is very cheap for Jimmy, and I think he's kind of one of the craziest price players here, I feel, considering how good Mouse have been. Jimmy feels great. Exertion's a little bit more, and I think the ceiling is higher, but the floor is also lower, right? I feel like Jimmy, even if Mouse get wiped out, so say FaZe upset, say they get to that Na'Vi game and they get rolled, I think Jimmy won't cost you points. That's the key thing with Jimmy. So I think he's the better choice on Mouse, but Both are good. For Spirit, Shiro and Donk are about the same price, but because they haven't played a lot recently, JACKZ and Zontix have both dropped dramatically. Zontix is back on the menu maybe. 203k? Is my friendship back with Zontix? I don't know, but both him and JACKZ are very cheap, and Spirit won't be very picked, so could be a bit of a sleeper pick. And speaking of sleepers, FaZe, as always, are that team. Rops, 209k, I think, could be that sleeper pick just because FaZe definitely make it out of their group. And if they beat Mal's, they end up second in the group, right? That's pretty impressive for FaZe. And yeah, I think it's very doable. And Rops was great for me in the Rio group stage, so I actually think he's really good value. I think Brokey's good. And then Rain for 190 feels very cheap. And I think the problem with Liquid is I'm concerned they might have hit that ceiling. You know, they had the honeymoon period, but I'm not sure they're ready to get out. I think their group is a bit too hard, so it's hard for me to advise these players. And same with Astralis. I actually thought Astralis were pretty decent in Rio, despite not making it out of the group stage. I thought we saw some good stuff from them, and the potential is really there for this team. And they're so cheap. 179 for Stare, 189 for Device. Very, very cheap players. However, I don't think they get out of the group stage. I think they bomb out of this event as well. They've got Mal's, FaZe, and Na'Vi. It just feels impossible. Is what it is. So here's the thing, guys. For my draft, I need to play pretty smart here because I bombed out the last event. I need to have a good result here. And given it's both groups and the playoff, I'm not going to go 2-2-1. I think that's a little bit too risky. I'm going to go 2 from one team and then 3 others. And I'm going to build this around the philosophy of having a strong player from 3 different teams that I could see making the grand final. So I'm going to start by saying I'm grabbing Mal's players, and I'm going to be grabbing Jimmy. He's my star for Mal's, and then Shuey just because he's so much better value than Alexi. I wanted to go double Na'Vi, but because Shuey is 10k cheaper, I decided double Mal's was the play instead, and I'll get a single Na'Vi player. Before I grab that player, I'm going to show you my other little player that's going to give me the budget, and it's JACKZ. This is kind of the risky part, but I just felt these 3 players were a really good baseline for pretty much any draft I wanted to do. There is a case to get Snacks instead, because I am going to grab a G2 player, and that's going to be Malbs. So the alternative would be getting Snacks Nico, but I think that Malbs gives you pretty much the same results, has brilliant activation on Headshot Machine, and JACKZ I'm just expecting to do better than Snacks. Plus, it also gives me that little bit of edge into Vitality if they do better than G2. Leaves me with 215, which means I'm grabbing Imma. I would have liked to have got one of the other 2, but for 215, we'll grab Imma. I think he's a bit more impactful than Wonderful. Normally, I prefer Wonderful, but because they're playing Astralis first in particular, I feel like Imma's got a lot more potential to do some serious damage and get me good results. So we've got 3 stars. We've got our budget players that I think can still get me decent rating. That's my team. Blast World Finals. This is what I'm rocking. It's a really cool event. I think there's a lot of good stuff you can do. So let me know your drafts as always, and good luck.